Today I'm going to tell you a story about an experience I had a long time ago watching a cow on a farm get butchered. My dad was going to butcher a cow and I really wanted to go with him. I told him I wanted to go with you. I've never seen a cow get butchered. I've seen chickens, but I haven't seen a cow yet. My parents said sure. I was really excited. The next day my mom sent a note to school that said I was sick. It was fake. I was just fine and very excited. My dad and I left. The town Mundare isn't that far from the town Hillard. Our farm was near Mundare and my uncle's farm was by Hillard. We got ready. The cow was standing there with a rope around its neck, and that rope was tied to a fence post. I thought, wow, as the three of us walked up to the cow. A big tractor pulled up with a lift. I was curious to see my uncle's skill with the rifle he had. His bullet penetrated the cow's forehead. The cow collapsed and I watched. I walked closer to the cow, but my uncle shooed me away. He told me to get back, so I did. I was confused. My uncle didn't want me to get too close in case the cow might kick. The cow fell on its side. My uncle tied a chain to its legs. The tractor moved closer and my uncle hooked the chains to the cradle of the tractor and the cow started to lift into the air. Then the cow started jerking and rocking the tractor. As I watched, I thought if I had been standing there, I would have been kicked and thrown backwards. The tractor backed up and then pulled up to the pig pen. The pig pen had a fence around it. The cow's stomach was cut open and its organs were emptied onto the ground in the pen. There were intestines, organs, and a big sack. The sack was like a giant balloon. The tractor pulled away and the cow's guts were left for the pigs to eat. We just left them there because we knew the pigs would eat all of it. The tractor pulled away and parked. Now we were all away from the smell. We were ready to start. The cow's carcass still had the skin on it. My uncle started to slice the skin from the cow's body slowly and carefully. Slowly he peeled the skin from the meat. It was pretty cold outside, but I could feel the heat emanating from the fresh, warm cow body. I got closer. My uncle and Dad finished with the first cow. I started to look around and noticed the big sack, like a balloon, still sitting over in the pig pen. My dad put his knife on a fence post and walked away. My uncle was busy continuing to cut the skin off the dead cow. I walked over to the sack to take a closer look. After a moment, I reached out and touched it with my hand. It was squishy like a water balloon. I was very curious about this sack. I looked over at my dad and uncle. They were both busy and not really paying any attention to me. I was curious and very tempted. I decided to sneak over to the fence post, take my dad's knife, and walk back to the pig pen. My dad noticed me and shouted at me and warned me to stop, but I couldn't hear him. I'm deaf. I used the sharp knife to poke the sack. Boy, that was a mistake. I poked it once and it began to deflate immediately. I got sprayed in the face with cow poop. It went in both nostrils. The cow's stomach was full of dung, and now it was all over me. I dropped the knife and took off running the other way. I ran for a long time. The smell was so awful, and it was everywhere. My uncle started choking on the smell, but just kept on cutting the skin off the cow's body. I could see that he was laughing at me. I stood a long ways away and tried to say I was sorry, but my dad was yelling at me. "That was so stupid of you," he yelled. I felt really awful. I stood there for a long time feeling bad. After about a half hour, I was ready to go back over to face my dad and uncle. They sniffed at me and said that I still smelled terrible. The smell was everywhere in the air, in my nose, in my chest. I had to blow my nose for an hour before the smell finally started to dissipate. I told my parents how sorry I was. They just laughed at me, and I laughed, but they said it was okay. I didn't realize the inside of a cow's stomach was feces. I thought the cow's huge balloon belly was a great big piece of meat, but really inside was fat, organs, guts, and poop. That's why a cow's belly is so big. I felt really bad, but my parents just laughed. Looking back, I think it's funny, a really funny story. I definitely learned my lesson.